Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another season of Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent computer role-playing game. As always, my usual rules will apply this year. I'll only cover a game that's had a full release, so early access games are excluded, although I will occasionally cover free games as long as they are considered feature complete. These won't be reviews of complete games, but will be based on a couple to several hours of gameplay, depending on the learning curve on the game in question, and I will focus mostly on the gameplay and the presentation itself. So if a game takes longer than that to really ramp up its appeal, or completely falls apart at the end of the game, keep this limitation in mind. There's only so much I can do here. As with all of my reviews, if a game turns out to be absolutely terrible, I probably just won't cover it, although I will cover a few more mediocre ones this season than I have in the past. I'll also be covering games from the last several years in addition to a few new ones that catch my eye just as they're released. Finally, while I will be attempting to focus on RPGs, the mixing and matching of genres has made it harder and harder to sort out pure RPGs from things with just heavy RPG elements, which I find just as frustrating as everybody else. So if you're an absolute purist out there, I apologize in advance if any of the titles I end up covering this year don't actually qualify as an RPG in your eyes. Again, I'm trying my best here. With all that having been said, let's take a look at a pretty simple little turn-based tactical role-playing game that was released late in 2020. Developed and published by Jim Makes Games, Guildmaster, Gratuitous Subtitle, saw its release on Steam in December of 2020. Guildmaster, Gratuitous Subtitle, is a turn-based tactical role-playing game in which you play the master of a guild of adventurers. It is mission-driven, with each mission allowing you to select a team of up to 4 from your current guild members, equip them, and then send them out to face enemies in a particular map. Between missions, you can speak with your guild members and invest in enchantments to provide them on-battlefield buffs. When you start the game, you may select one of 3 difficulty levels: easy, medium, and hard. You are then given the opportunity to play through a tutorial, which also serves as an introductory to the game itself, giving you a taste of both the gameplay and introducing you to your first guild members. You may also create your Guildmaster, choosing a gender, outfit color, and portrait. You can also select a starting spell for your Guildmaster, which may be cast during missions and can be critical in assisting your party out of tough scrapes. You are then dropped into the Guild Hall. The Guild Hall is where you go between missions. There are a few sections to it. The receptionist desk in the main hall is where you start, and that is where you can acquire missions and outfit your party. To the left is a training room, and to the right is a tavern, where you can speak with your guild members and the bartender as they go about their day-to-day routines. Supposedly, this may grant hints as to what to do with certain quests, but honestly, it's mostly just humorous filler and banter. The upper left of the main room is the Enchanter's Room. You may purchase up to 3 enchantments that provide long-term buffs for your party in different categories when they're out on missions. These cost gold from your gold pool and are permanent. To the upper right is the library, where a couple books of lore are available to peruse to give you background on the world as well as insight into various weapons. At all times, your active party members may be found in various rooms of the guild according to their interests, and if they have something new to discuss, they'll have a green exclamation mark over their heads. They can also tell you their current skills and stats when you speak to them in case you want to review them. When you are ready to go out on a mission, you speak to the receptionist at the front desk. This gives you 2 options. You can view your current guild members, and you can view each of the available quests. Reviewing your guild members allows you to look at their stats sheets and basically make decisions on who to bring to the next quest based on that. You start with several guild members, and you can acquire up to a total of 15 over the course of the game. These guild members are pretty much set characters, each with their own name, starting stats, weapon selection, and special ability, but may be customized a little bit through play by boosting their stats on each level up. Each character has a name, a level, and a preferred fighting style. There are 2 bars, health and energy. Health indicates how far a character can be injured before being knocked out, while energy is used to fuel spells and special abilities. Each character has a number of useful item types that can be equipped during each mission. Characters may also have a special ability. Some of these are passive, giving a bonus against certain enemies or in certain environments, giving immunity to a special attack or whatnot, while some grant active abilities, such as the Elementalist Meditate ability that doubles their energy regeneration for a full turn. Finally, each character has 3 main stats and 4 derived stats. The main attributes are toughness, which affects maximum health, agility that determines movement speed, evasion, and chance to hit for ranged attacks, and finally willpower, which determines maximum energy and energy regeneration rates. Derived stats include evade, which gives a chance to dodge attacks, move speed that governs how far a character can move on their turn, energy per turn, which is just your energy regeneration rate, and armor, which reduces the incoming attack damage by a certain percent with a minimum of 1 point reduced each time. When you ask about available quests, you are presented with a quest screen. Each quest has a description, an objective, and a reward in gold coins. You can prepare a party of up to 4 once you've decided on which quest. Preparing your party involves selecting 4 suitable characters and equipping them. Characters added to the party must then be equipped from what you've got or from the shop. You can use the equipment already owned in the guild, assigning them to each character with an auto-equip button available if you can't really decide, or you can go to the shop tab to buy more equipment. Equipment costs more money the better quality it is, and equipment becomes used once you've taken it out on an adventure, so keep that in mind. Weapons you select give a range of attacks that a character may use. Spells are associated with wands, special attacks with various weapons, etc. These attacks are listed with a damage rating, any special effects that they may bestow, and an energy cost. In the shop, you may also buy various accessories that grant a flat passive bonus or ability, as well as specialized secondary weapons for certain classes, such as bombs for alchemists. Once the party has been prepared and equipped, you can begin the quest. This teleports your party to the quest location, which may be in 1 or more maps. These maps are tile-based and viewed from an overhead angle for the most part. While there may be decorations amidst the tiles, few if any of them are actually interactable, besides doors and some objective chests. In terms of interface, on the left-hand side you have your Guildmaster's portrait, under which is a timer, and then each of your character's portraits in turn. These display the health, energy, and whether they have moved or attacked this turn. Beneath your characters is the End Turn button. On the top of the screen is the turn indicator, which will show the hero turn when it's your turn and enemy turn when it's not. There's also an objective tab that can remind yourself of the level's objectives, and then the Guildopedia, where you may review concepts of the game itself. There's an options screen button beside it, and then in the lower right-hand side of the screen is your message log that just is updated as you fight things. The game is mouse-driven. Just click on which character you wish to move, and then the space you wish to move them to within their allowable movement range. You may move and attack with any of the 4 characters during a given turn, switching up as necessary, although each character may only move to the limit of their movement and use 1 action. And if you use the action after moving, that will pretty much end your movement totally. At the end of the screen, when you have the character selected, is a list of abilities based on the character's class and equipment. Under this is another copy of the energy bar that lets you judge what a character can do, just in case you forgot. You can also look on the left. Clicking on the attack or skill shows what that skill does and allows you to select necessary targets. As turns progress, the Guildmaster's timer ticks down. When it is empty, the Guildmaster can cast one of their known spells for free. This can be useful to buff a particular character, heal them, or whatever. There's various sorts of spells that you can equip as you learn them through the gameplay. Once either all of your characters have moved and attacked, or you select the End Turn button, play proceeds to the enemy turn. All enemies that can send your character then get their opportunity to move and attack. Each enemy has its own stats, including health and energy, although you can really only see the health and energy bars. Enemies have their own set of moves based on their weaponry, and some may be indicated as armored, meaning that they will suffer less damage per attack. Particular enemies may have strengths or weaknesses as well during certain kinds of attacks. For instance, a fire-based enemy will probably take little damage from fire-based spells and attacks. If the character is reduced to 0 health, they are simply removed from the mission, but they will be available for later ones. During play, each character may be moved on their own, whether in combat or out of combat, and that can be a little bit annoying because you want to cross a map, you're going to have to move each individual character one at a time. Missions may often have doors that can be opened, gates that can be bashed down, or doorways and stairs that lead to other maps in the same mission. Crossing to a new map in the same mission does restore all your character's energy, but not their health. Play proceeds until the objective of the mission is complete. For most instances, this involves killing all of the opponents, although for some there may be other objectives, such as opening an objective chest. Upon completion, you can then return to the guild by clicking the Return to Guild button. Upon arrival back in the guild, each character that took part in the quest can level up. This gives you 3 stat points to distribute between each of the character's primary attributes: toughness, agility, and willpower. The characters that took part in the quest are then also to be considered resting and may not take part in the next quest. Characters level up whether or not they got knocked out during a particular quest in question. You may also improve the Guildmaster's spells at this point. There are 3 main trees, 1 restoration tree, 1 buff tree, and 1 elemental damage tree, which may add or increase with the effectiveness of the Guildmaster spells used during a mission. At that point, you can walk around the guild hall, talk to characters, and then prepare for the next quest. And that is that. It's an extremely simple game loop from that perspective. The combat system itself is where the main game takes place, and while that tactical combat can be quite interesting, requiring a certain degree of forethought in terms of character placement, skills to use, how much damage you can output versus an enemy, watching out for various resistance and weaknesses, and being sure to conserve enough energy for certain attacks against certain enemies, there's not much depth in the actual guild mastering part of the game. In terms of graphics, it's alright. The tile-based graphics are somewhat amateur, but certainly not the worst I've seen, being on par with a few other indie games I've looked at. The interface is a little bit clunky, having a certain retro feel to it, although I'm not entirely certain that's intentional in this instance. The fact that everything is mouse-driven, with little to nothing in the way of keyboard shortcuts, can make it for a bit of getting used to. Musically, the tracks themselves individually are alright, although their selection can be a little bit odd at times. I remember at least one that sounded like it'd be more suited for some sort of sci-fi game than a fantasy jaunt in the woods. The writing, in terms of the Guildmaster's interactions with the other characters, can be pretty amusing at times, although, as with anything humor-based, it sometimes tries a little bit too hard. I think the most frustrating part about the dialogue is that it rarely goes anywhere. Whether you're speaking with a bartender or quest givers or other members of the party, there's rarely anything of actual use spoken of, and it mostly just boils down to the Guildmaster being a bit of a rambling, absent-minded a-hole to his own guild members. While that can be funny for a little bit, it quickly grows old. There are a few instances where you can choose between which quest to take on first, although the other one usually becomes available shortly thereafter. This may be more useful if there were an indication as to what quests might be coming down the line later on, all in all. This is mostly irritating when trying to decide what characters to pick, since a few characters have specific bonuses against certain enemies or in certain terrain, and you might want to be sure to leave those characters off of certain quests just so they can be ready for the next one instead of resting. You're only given information on the quests currently available, so unless you've already played through the game or have access to the quest order, there's certain instances where you might start not using characters merely on the off chance that they might be useful next round. Since characters only level up after quests, this can be a little bit troublesome since you're not going to be taking some of them out. So all in all, is it worthwhile? Well, I had fun with it. The tactical combat isn't bad at all, and although it wears, the humor is decent in some parts. I do feel like so much more could have been done outside of combat. There's this big guild hall, and there's barely any use for it for most of it. The quests also seem to be a bit brief, and while there are choices later, most of the story is pretty linear. I'm going to chalk this one up into the pile of genre-specific appeal, and only if you can catch it on sale. If these sorts of tactical RPGs are your thing and you can catch it with a bit of a discount, it might be worth checking out, although it's probably not going to sell people on tactical RPGs in and of itself if they haven't actually played the genre before. And on that note, I'm going to wrap it up here. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday, Guildmaster Gratuitous Subtitles. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. As always, I'll leave a link to where you can pick this one up below. Until next time, take care and goodbye. And if you're still watching this far, I'd like to take a moment to thank those who have supported this channel via Patreon or direct donations throughout the years, without which this channel could not have lasted as long as it has. For those who are feeling particularly generous, you can still support my work through Patreon and now through Subscribestar as well, through the links in the description below.